Well, you know, with low points come high points. It also propelled us to a 6-game run, and I think we learned from the mistakes of the Missouri game, you know, and got better after that. So it definitely was a low point, but also as I look at things, you can learn a lot about yourself and what you need to do from those low points if you look at yourself objectively. And just like today, I mean, we come off of a win against Iowa State. Today's going to be a tough day for these guys because we're going to come on them hard about things we need to fix and get better at. So I think you're always analyzing yourself. We certainly did it. We're going to do it today, same way we do it after a loss. And we did it a year ago after Missouri. And you know, there was a time of the year we were trying to find our identity. We had some young guys playing on that offensive line. We hadn't really matured very well. We weren't running the ball. We weren't protecting the quarterback. We were struggling in a lot of areas. And so we learned a lot of things we had to get better at, and I thought we did throughout the course of the rest of that season. Does it linger? It does for me, because I thought we should have played better, but I take nothing away from them. They had a phenomenal quarterback that played a great game that day. They played tenacious defense, and really gave us everything we could possibly handle.
Coach,
more than we can handle.
Talk about Terrence Frederick and kind of how you recruited him. He was like maybe your last guy you brought in that class.
Yeah, he was one of the last guys, and if you had to go back and do it all again, you'd say he'd be one of the first guys because he's been so productive for us. And he's a quiet leader on our football team. One of the most well-liked guys on the team, and one of the most respected. He's been in my office before, but never for anything other than just to talk, and even then it's not very often. But he academically, athletically, he does everything you ask him to do. Sometimes he'll peek into the backfield one too many times, so you get on him about that. But really pleased with him, and he's done a great job for us.
Are you glad Trent Hunter brought you that video?
Yeah. I remember being in the school at the time. We were visiting Trent, and T-Fred was committed to Louisville at the time, and you know, we talked to him during that contact period, and we were able to get the recruiting process going. So, but yeah, we're glad we got him in the fold because he's been Mr. Reliable during the course of his. You know, if you don't hear a lot about him, and if you don't hear a lot about the corners, he's usually doing a pretty good job. They're a little bit like offensive linemen, and so he's been doing a very good job for us.
How big a shot in the arm was Lionel Smith in Judy's absence the other day?
You know, it didn't surprise me because Lionel's been a pretty good player. He just needed an opportunity to show what he could do, and he made plays on the ball. And I think our defense as a unit, one thing we stressed in practice last week was making more plays on the ball. What was a big point of emphasis. I had this thing to, you know, fix things we need to fix in the last 6 games, and that was one of them. And they responded. They did it in practice and they did it in the game. I'm a firm believer that you have to do it in practice in order for it to play out in the games, and they did it. So Lionel was part of that.
The players tell us that at the Spencer Neely we see after a sack is the same Spencer Neely they see at 6 a.m. in terms of enthusiasm, and could you just speak to his enthusiasm?
Yeah, I mean, he's so enthusiastic. You know, I have a 10-yard restraining order against him. He's not supposed to be within 10 yards of me because he'll spit on you or something. I mean, you know, stuff falling out of his head and stuff. So he's moving around, but he just brings a lot of energy, not just to our defense, but to our team. And you need those guys. You know, you need guys that have that type of energy and that passion. You know, and you know, he's not the best athlete on the field on Saturday, but I mean, he gives you everything that he has on every single play. And he can be better at this and better at that, but as far as coming ready to practice and ready to play every day, consistently the same, what you see is what you get with him. So it's nice to have a player like that. I'd take 11 of those guys and go beat anybody because they're going to, you know what you're getting, and they're going to give you everything they got.
Coach, you guys came in pretty banged up on Saturday. What does it say about your team's resiliency, especially defense that come in and, you know, play really well? Your pass defense only gave up 180 yards.
You know, it's funny you mention like that. I often say to the staff, I say, you know, in the NFL, everybody knows you're banged up and this guy's out and that guy's out, and you know, there's preemptive excuses for why a team may not perform at a certain level because all these guys are out. In college, you don't do that. which is good, because you can't use injuries as an excuse. The next guy has to step up, and a great example there was Lionel Smith stepping up in his role. Stansbury stepping up and starting the defensive line. Did a nice job, really played well. So, you know, I think they responded well. We don't make a big deal about injuries. I kind of treat it like I did in the NFL. You just go, the next guy's got to be ready to play. You hope he is. And it's a little bit easier to know what you have in the NFL because they probably have some experience. But when you put new guys out there that haven't played a whole lot, it's a little bit of a trial test. But I was very pleased with the way the guys who were asked to step up in those starting positions and those playing positions responded to the challenge that they had.
Who are your injury banged up people who may miss time?
Going in this week?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Corey Judy, we're going to run him today and see what he's at. I think we have to be very careful with him that we don't have a recurring injury, so we have to really watch that. Garrett Williams is another one. We're going to work him today.
Is his an ankle still?
Yes. Tony Giardetti, same thing. I think offensively we're fine, but defensively those three players are the ones to stand out right now.
What about Eddie Brown, Coach?
What about him?
He's tweeting about a knee. I don't know.
I don't read the tweets very often. So I can't comment on what he did Saturday night or what he tweeted his
Said
day.
he's a little sore, I
Okay.
guess.
Well, why don't you tweet him back and ask him? That'd probably be the best answer you can get.
Along those lines, do you ever feel like you need to, you know, because you said you don't read their tweets or whatever, is that something that you just tell them to be careful with what they say? Because they're out there to everybody.
I don't know how much time you guys think I have to be able to do something like that. We have people who look at all that stuff to
Okay.
make sure that someone is watching to see what's out there.
Right.
I promise you, these kids, they have no idea. You know, you put that out there, it's out there forever, you know, and it's forever. And yeah, we talk to them about that quite often. I wouldn't say often, we talk to them diligently about it, but probably, now that you mention it, probably I'd mention it again. But you know, they have no idea that, I mean, your future employer may pull that up someday, and it could adversely affect your employment. And so y'all better be careful what you're putting on there.
Is it something you ever
talked about Missouri and last year they had an NFL quarterback. This year Franklin's been struggling and growing pains. How much similarities do you see in this team than when you played a year ago?
Well, this team is, you know, James Franklin is, you know, they're leading the Big 12 in rushing, and he's a big part of that because of the read option, and you know, so they lean a little bit more towards the run game this year than maybe they do last year. But they've got a great scheme. They spread you out. They're all over the place, and it comes down to one-on-one open field tackling a lot of the times. And when you consider their running back, Josie has, I mean, I think it's 8.5 per carry, and so they're getting you spread out all over the field and hand the ball off or pulling it on the read option and whatnot. So they're different from that standpoint. They still have the ability to throw it, obviously. The quarterback last year was, you know, as proven, was one of the best in the country. And this young man is just growing into his position. He's a good quarterback. I mean, he can still throw it, and probably they rely more for him to run it as well. So there's probably more balance that way.
How much does it help your offense to be able to rely on your kicker as much as you know, the way he's kicking this season, honestly?
Well, it takes the pressure off a lot of times because, you know, if we had missed a couple of those along the way in the last 3 ball games, I mean, there would have been a lot tighter games, and he's really carried us. I give him a lot of credit, you know, any success we've had on offense, and Randy Boak's to be part of that story because, you know, those drives end up and we don't get points. I mean, it's a different ball game. You play it a different way. So I take my hat off to Randy and his contribution to the offensive production this year. It's been huge.
Is there anything you can put your finger on that's made him so steady or grow so steadily as a kicker his time here?
Well, I would like to think, and he'd probably disagree with this, but you know, I think with both the kickers that went out and got some competition, and I think competition brings out the best in everybody, and it might have peed him off a little bit, you know, and I don't know. He's just kicking with. He's on a mission, and he's done it in practice. He does it in the games. He's just very. I mean, he's really elevated himself as well. I mean, there's a better kicker out there in the country. I don't know where he is right now, but I'm glad we got the guy we got and what he's doing with the ball.
And do you think he'll be able to take that to the next level?
You know, kickers is such a unique position. You know, I would have thought that Brantley would be playing somewhere right now too. You know, college punting is different, a little bit different transition than NFL punting. It's a different game to punt. You know, hang time is so critical, more so than the distance. But field goal kicking is identical. There's really no difference. And so I would have to think that he's definitely elevated himself to somebody that people are going to look at. No question.
Coach, well, that part is